What's up, Corn Belters fans, and welcome to the Corn Crib. It is now time for episode 2 of Ridin the Pine with Jeff Hager. Today I'm joined by Michael Schweiss, the pitcher for the Corn Belters. And Mike, you just came off the disabled list, but your first outing back, you just allowed 3 hits, striking out 4, and only had 1 walk. How comfortable did you feel getting back on that mound for the first time in a long time?
I felt more comfortable than I thought. I think it was just more than anything, it felt great just to be back out there, be competing again with my team. It's been tough this season, just having to watch everything from the bench and not being able to be out there with all the guys. That's why I'm here, and that's why we're all here, just to be able to compete on a daily basis. So more than anything, it was great just to be able to be back on the mound and competing. And it, that first start went better than I even could have thought. So it was really good to kind of get the ball rolling and be back out there.
And the success didn't just stop there. Last weekend, when you guys were down in Florence, you went 7 2/3 inning, retired the first 20 hitters of the game before allowing your first hit in the 7th inning. Only 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and 3 hits allowed. So you must be really getting back into that groove here, especially, like I said, coming off that disabled list.
Yeah, definitely. The game in Florence was really fun. Just being able to, kind of cruise like that, and Shover and I were on the same page the whole game, and it was, like after the 5th inning, I kind of looked up and realized that I hadn't given up a hit or anything yet, and I really have never gone that many innings without giving up a hit in my life before, so it was fun more than anything, and I just kind of carried over from the first start after I got off the disabled list, and kind of did the same things, Shover and I, just keeping hitters off balance. And I think the biggest thing is I'm just going out there pitching and really having fun and just enjoying being able to compete without having to worry about being hurt or anything like that. So it's been good.
Now, what kind of workouts did you do when you were on the DL?
Yeah, for a little bit, right after I got hurt, it was just rest, and then after that, it was a pretty aggressive rehab process. A lot of it was some shoulder strengthening stuff. A lot of elbow injuries happen from shoulder tightness or a weak shoulder. So a lot of shoulder stuff, forearm stuff, and then stretching. And then we just kind of had to build into it. It was frustrating at first, only being able to throw 60 feet a couple times a week, but just tried to stay as patient as possible and trust the process. And eventually, finally got on a mound, and then just worked from being on a mound to being able to pitch in a game situation and being able to trust that my elbow is going to hold up, and so far it has. So everything worked out pretty well so far.
Now, you're from Parker, Colorado. You said you were a pitcher in high school. What made you decide to want to go into pitching? Because I'm sure you can tell the altitude difference is a lot different from Parker, Colorado to Bloomington normal,
yeah,
where the humidity has a little bit more effect on the ball, where the altitude, that ball is going to keep flying. What made you decide want to go into pitching when that's usually not a pitcher-friendly state?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just always loved pitching from whenever I started pitching. That was kind of what I loved. I just loved kind of being in control of the game, and I always played positions too, really through high school. I was an infielder too, and I was always a good hitter, dropped some bombs here and there, but I decided to try to not to let up bombs, and I don't know, the altitude does make a big difference, and I never realized it because I only really ever pitched in Colorado, and then I went to college in Texas, and it definitely makes a difference, especially going from a humid area back to Colorado. I notice a difference. Breaking balls don't quite break as much, and balls definitely stay in the air longer. So it is a difference, but I think it in the end, I think it made me a better pitcher, having to pitch in the altitude and wind in Colorado for the first 18 years of my life, and then going to Dallas and pitching in humidity, and now here in normal too. So I think it helped me in the long run.
So would you say you use the humidity to your advantage when you're pitching versus being in the altitude?
Yeah, I think it's not really something I think about too much at this point, but it's especially being in the being in Colorado in the off season, just throwing bullpens and things like that. I just notice going from Colorado to a humid area that breaking balls are a little sharper, and Balls don't carry as much. So it's not too, not something I think about a whole lot. But when you're pitching in Colorado, you just gotta really make sure you get the ball down because pop flies can get out. Whether it's a high school field or a college field or a big league field, pop flies can get out there. So it's definitely a difference, but I don't think about it a whole lot.
Okay. So now it is time for the Facebook fan question. And Laura Laughlin-Nichols would like to know, who is your favorite Major League Baseball player and who inspired you the most throughout your baseball career?
Let's see. I grew up a Rockies fan. They always had some great players that were fun to watch. Larry Walker was one of my favorite players to watch growing up in Colorado. He was, he played hard every time, and unfortunately there weren't a whole lot of good pitchers for the Rockies growing up that I could idolize. But I always loved watching Greg Maddux pitch. I think he was the one guy that I really idolized growing up. Had a lot of influence on me because I never really threw hard growing up at all, so I had to kind of be a guy that really made sure I hit my spots and kept the ball down and changed speeds a lot. That's what he made a career on. He's a Hall of Famer from doing that. So Greg Maddux he's my all-time favorite pitcher. I loved watching him throw. So I think just watching him and how he went about his business for almost 20 years in the big leagues was pretty influential on me.
Last question. Do you agree with Greg Maddux going in as a neutral to the Hall of Fame when he played? I know he played with the Braves and the Cubs. Do you think that he should go in as one team or as neutral?
Yeah, it's tough. When I was growing up, he was a Brave. When I was really getting into baseball was when he was in the prime of his career as an Atlanta Brave with that pitching staff they had. So for me, I think maybe I would have liked to see him go in as a Brave, but he played, I guess, Cubs, Braves, and I think Padres at the end of his career. So I guess it was just a personal decision. So I'm not sure.
Well, thanks, Mike, for your time. Really appreciate it. Coming up after the break, I'm going to sit down with Corn Belters catcher Tyler Shover, so stay tuned.
Watch this, guys. Watch this. Swish! Oh! Doesn't look hard to me.
Is this real? It's real.
Look at these arms. Boom! Swish! Did you see that?
Speaking of easy, play the new 20 Years of Cash. Win up to $1 million now, plus up to $10,000 a week for 20 years.
Welcome back. I'm now joined by catcher Tyler Shover. And Tyler, this is your second season with the Corn Belters. And what were some of the emotions that you had when you were signed by the Corn Belters last season?
Just trying to get picked up in general was my overall goal. And at the point after the draft and things didn't work out, I was thrilled to see that my name was still out there floating around and I got the opportunity, so I'm just trying to take the best advantage of it as I can.
Great. And so far this season, you've had the opportunity to catch pitchers like Alan Oaks and Cole Brocker, who've already been picked up by Major League teams. What's it like catching these pitchers who have had just so much talent, and you're back there starting most of the games for the Corn Belters?
Yeah, it's definitely a learning experience for myself just to see what guys at that next level have and what I have to know and kind of be on the same page with them as far as catching and making them throw their best pitch in the right circumstance and whatnot.
And this season, you were selected to the Frontier League All-Star team. This is your second season. What are some of the changes that you've seen for yourself, both offensively and defensively, from last season to this season?
Defensively, as a catcher, I guess I have to take defense as my first priority, and I try and learn from every pitch and every mistake instead of dwelling on it. I try and learn from that and get better. Just things like how to manage the game and certain pitches and certain situations and whatnot. And as far as offensively, it always has its ups and downs no matter who you are. And just learning to manage that and basically situational hitting at this next level is a big part of my learning curve, I guess you could say.
And what would you say was your most memorable experience from the All-Star game this year?
The West winning it definitely, but just having as many guys as we did there was definitely a good time.
Great, and so it's now time for our Facebook fan question. And Terry Sprout Evans wants to know, how do you guys pass time on road trips when you're away from Bloomington Normal?
I mean, we still spend a lot of our time in the field, putting in work and stuff like that. But as far as that, I mean, we'll hang out in hotel rooms with each other, maybe go see a movie. Basically, just any way to pass the time, we usually find a way to.
Kind of hang out and relax a little bit, get ready for the game.
Exactly.
Great. Well, I appreciate it, Tyler.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, this is Corn Belters catcher Tyler Shover. The Corn Belters will wrap up this series Thursday night against the Gateway Grizzlies, and then they will head on the road to Rockford to take on the Rockford Aviators in a 3-game series this weekend. The Corn Belters will return home next Tuesday to begin a 6-game homestand, starting with the Schaumburg Boomers next week and ending with the Traverse City Beach Bums next weekend. Thanks for coming out to the Corn Crib tonight, Corn Belters fans. And this has been another episode of Riding the Pine with Jeff Hager. See you next time.